Okay, so this is a brief explanation of the writing process. A lot of this information that's in this presentation, we're going to go over in more depth throughout the semester. But this is just kind of a general overall view of what the writing process looks like a lot of the time. So the writing process typically includes these steps: pre-writing and brainstorming, thinking rhetorically, reviewing the assignment, assessing kind of where your personal knowledge on the topic already is, researching, drafting, proofreading and editing, and then finally submission. So let's talk about pre-writing. Pre-writing is what you do before you engage in the writing process. It's important to think about kind of the topic of your work, what you already know about it, what you need to know about it, what are some ideas that you maybe want to research or include in your essay. There's different types of pre-writing: free writing, clustering, listing, outlining, and we're going to go over this in a little bit more detail, but in general, these are just different types of pre-writing that help get your ideas flowing. One of the things that it's important to point out here is that not everybody does pre-writing the same way. Whatever works for you is great. I always say embrace the way your brain works, and this helps you produce your best work. Then you want to take time to really think rhetorically about what you're doing. Why are you writing this essay? What is the purpose of it? Why did you choose this topic, or did you choose this topic? Sometimes you will have topics that your instructors or professors choose for you, but if you got to pick why this topic, why does it matter? Who is your audience? Who is going to be reading this work? What do they already know and believe? What do you want them to know and believe by the time they're finished with your work? And what is your reason for writing? Are you writing to inform? Are you writing to persuade? Are you writing to entertain? Whatever your reason for writing is, that's going to affect the work that you create. So thinking about these things before you go into a project can help you stay focused and create something that you're going to be proud of. And then review your assignment. If you're writing for academic purposes, look at the instruction material provided for you. What did your professor give you? Is there an essay checklist? Is there an assignment sheet available to you? Is there a rubric? What is it that you are working off of? If you don't have an essay checklist, what will it take to create one? Do you know how many words or pages you need? What are the requirements of the assignment? What do you need to include in this essay to create the best possible work? Remember, your instructions are often the clearest path to the grade you want. Students will sometimes turn in work and they don't understand why they received the grade they did, but the truth is that they didn't really reflect on the instructions. They didn't follow the instructions. What their professor asked of them wasn't fulfilled in their writing. So make sure that you are using the instructions you have to create your work. And then kind of do a personal knowledge inventory. When you start writing an academic assignment, it's important to assess, what do I already know about this topic? What don't I know about this topic? What do I need to know about this topic? Take some time and write down the answers to this question, or to the question, what do you already know about the topic? And then list resources that are available to you that will be useful for your writing project. Maybe this is a book or a website or a librarian who you're going to talk to about your topic. Maybe you know an expert on this topic. What resources are available to you, and how will you be able to use those resources? And then let's talk about researching. Some students love this step in the writing process. Some students hate this step in the writing process. Wherever you fall on the spectrum between love and hate, research is a big part of academic writing. Now, not all academic essays or academic writing involve research, and if your project doesn't, then you will just skip this step. But if there is a research element to your assignment, take some time and look at the resources that are available to you. Do a library database search, do a Google Scholar search, look at what books the library has, what books you have, what your professor has offered, what is out there in the world that can help you. Think about where you can find quality academic sources and what that means. And then once you start gathering sources, evaluate those sources. Are they biased? Do they have factual and accurate information? Is the information up to date? And we're going to talk a little bit more about evaluating sources, but think about how this applies to your topic. So, for example, if you're writing about Shakespeare, the date of the sources might not matter. But if you're writing about, biomechanical engineering, the date of the sources are certainly going to matter. And you want to make sure that you have the most up-to-date information. Look at where you found your research sources. Did they come from instructor-approved locations? A lot of times in academic writing, your professors will say all of your sources must come from the library databases. Or maybe your professor will give you criteria to evaluate sources that don't come from the databases. But think about what are the requirements of the assignment and am I meeting those? And if it's a little bit more lax in the requirement, and am I finding the best quality sources available? Think about how you're going to incorporate this research into your work. Are you going to use quotes or paraphrases or summaries? And when is the best time to use each of those? What percentage of your essay will be quoted research sources? I have an 80-20 rule in my class. This means your work should be about 80% your new and original ideas, supported by about 20% cited research. This is just a general rule. This is not a hard and fast rule. This is not a rule across all academic subjects. And if your professor or instructor says you can only have 15% research or you need to have 25% research, then obviously you're going to follow the rules of your instructor. But the 80-20 rule is just kind of a good general rule. And then how can you use your research to bolster your own creative and original thoughts and ideas? Remember, you're not just gathering what other people have said in the past and putting it together in some sort of cohesive form. You're coming up with new ideas and you're using research to prove that your ideas are valid. So you've done pre-writing, you've thought about your work, you've done your research. Now it is time to write your draft. Writing your draft should not be the first step in the writing process. You have to do all of that other work before you sit down to actually write your essay. And then here's what I always suggest to students. When you sit down to draft, just get all of your thoughts and ideas out. Don't worry about censoring yourself. Don't worry about editing. Don't worry about correctness. You are just getting the thoughts that are in your head onto a piece of paper. That way you don't lose anything in the process of being like, oh, how do I spell this word? Or, what word choice works better here? One of the things that can help during the drafting process is to create a thesis. We're going to talk more about this, but in general, a thesis contains a topic, a stance, and a roadmap. And a lot of times a good thesis can help sort of guide your drafting process. If you've ever been writing and you're like, I started over here and now I'm way over here and I don't see the connection. I kind of, followed a bunny trail. Sometimes that's because you don't have a good thesis. Now, This is something that helped me a lot. There is no magical order in which you have to write your essay sections. Say you love writing the body sections, but the introduction and the conclusion feel like drudgery. Figure out what order writing them works best for you. Maybe if you write your intro and your conclusion first, then it will feel like you've done the hard work and now you can move on to the part you like. Or vice versa. Maybe you want to do the part you like first and then go back and worry about those other sections. You do not have to write your paper in first paragraph to last paragraph order. Feel free to mix it up and do what works best for you. Now, most academic essays do generally have a typical organization, or they have like an introduction section, and then there are body sections, and then there are conclusion sections. Maybe these sections are one paragraph, maybe they're a little bit more than one paragraph, but there is this kind of structure to an academic essay that makes sense for most readers and writers. So when you sit down to draft, think about what you're going to put in each section. In your introduction, you're going to introduce the topic, catch your reader's interest, provide any background information that your reader might need to understand what you're talking about. And then you're going to present your thesis. Then in your body section, I will say this, each main point of your thesis should have its own section or its own paragraph. Each of these paragraphs needs a topic sentence, and you're going to present these paragraphs in the order that they were presented in your thesis. Each body paragraph should only have one topic. Make a point and stick to it. And then once you've made your point, support that point with adequate and specific details. This is where you might give examples or explain how this topic would work in real life, or maybe you're going to use some cited research in here, but you're going to definitely provide enough supporting details that by the time you get to the end of your paragraph, your reader is like, oh, I totally see how that is a valid point. And then make sure each body paragraph has coherence. You're going to organize details in a logical manner so that your reader understands what you're trying to convey. And then the last section of your essay is going to be your conclusion. You're going to restate your main ideas and basically tell your reader what they should take with them after reading and studying your work. And then you get to the fun part, or maybe the not fun part, depending on how you feel about editing and revision. So a lot of times these words are used interchangeably, but they actually mean kind of different things. So revision looks at making major changes to a document's content or structure or organization. Maybe you're going to realize that, your third body section kind of went a little out in left field and you're going to rewrite it. Editing, on the other hand, involves making sentence level changes. Things like grammar, punctuation, mechanics, spelling, sentence structure. And we're going to talk about both editing and revision a little bit later on. During the editing process, you also want to make sure that you look at things like MLA format. Does your essay format match the style you're being asked to use? And then submitting your work. Pay attention to the way you will submit your work. What type of file do you need to use? So for example, the computers on our campus don't support the Mac program Pages, so you have to submit like a PDF or a Word document. Where do you need to submit your work? Sometimes students wait till the last minute. It's 11:53 and they have to turn it in at 11:59, and they're like, oh, I don't know where to turn it in at. What happens if there's a technical issue? What is your professor's policy on this? And how will you remember to submit your work on time? Are you going to do it a day early so you don't have to worry about it? Are you going to set an alarm on your phone? What is your plan for submitting your work? There's nothing more frustrating than having the work completed and then forgetting to turn it in. And then maybe you don't get credit for the assignment or you have a late penalty. So just make sure that you have a plan for submitting your work on time. So this is a general overview of the writing process. These are the steps and the strategies that we're going to be looking at and practicing this semester. I don't expect for you to have this entire writing process down after one presentation, but I just kind of wanted you to have the general overview of what this looks like. If you have questions, please reach out. I am happy to answer them.